This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It continues this hour. Welcome back to our audience on KTN Home. We are still here with you until 9 o'clock on Spice FM 94.4 in Nairobi, in Mombasa 87.9, in Malindi 97.7, Nyeri 90.9, 96.7 in Eldoret, 96.0 in Nakuru, 102.5 in Kisumu. CT Muga, as we begin this hour, tell us today's proverb.
Well, today's proverb doesn't fall in the category of wise sayings that have been handed down over the years. This one is more current and more contemporary.
It has been created.
Yes, it's a Kenyan proverb by a group called Team Mafisi. We refer to them as a tribe. And this is the saying, this is the proverb. If you lose your girlfriend in a crowded bar, just start talking to a beautiful woman and she will reappear.
Okay, always gets me, that one. Tim Mafisi. We are joined by a guest in the studio this morning, and this is the German ambassador to Kenya, Ambassador Annett Günter. Welcome to the studio. Asante sana for joining us.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to the Situation Room. We normally refer to that seat as a hot seat. We will make it warm enough for you. We want to talk about the reunification of Germany 30 years ago, 1990. East, West came together. Where were you? Were you on the East or on the West?
I grew up on the eastern side, behind what people used to call the Iron Curtain. It's also called the Berlin Wall, but it was not only a wall in Berlin.
Yep.
It went right through the whole country. So I grew up in East Germany, and on the night of the fall of the Berlin Wall, which was the 9th of November in 89, I was in East Berlin. I was sitting there with a girlfriend chatting, like this girl, it's evenings, bottle of wine and talking about boys or whatnot. And then, of course, in East Berlin, we were listening to West German radio,
Right.
RIAS at the time. And so we were listening, and then they were telling us the wall has come down. People starting to climb the wall. And we were sitting there, and we couldn't believe it. And we said, like, isn't it mean enough that we are on this side? And now they are telling us this bullshit. Really, we did not believe a word. And we continued to sit there for another 2 hours, like talking about, oh, if that were true and what would happen to the economy, to the country. We didn't even go check. And
So at
we
first
were like,
you thought it
we
was
were
Western
like
propaganda.
1 kilometer away from the next border post. We didn't go. And at the end of the evening, I sat in a tram and I went home. And I passed actually quite along the border. I didn't see anyone. I didn't go check. Only the next morning, when I heard it again on the radio, I thought, oh my God, I must check out. But at that time, we didn't have mobile phones. We didn't have social media. So you couldn't check. Many East Germans didn't have TV. So how would you find out? So I went downstairs into the street to a public phone and called the only friend I had. I knew had the phone at home. And I called him and said, like, have you heard this? And he said, yes, I've heard. Let's go downtown, let's meet and check out. So it took like 12 hours for this to sink in and to go. So we met at the university in East Berlin, and then we went to the border, and then we saw what's going on. So just what I want to explain, it was very unexpected. It was a big surprise. There has been this protest going on for quite a long time in 88 and 89, but nobody would ever have expected this.
Why didn't they expect that such a change could come?
Because the system, we grew up in a system of complete control of the party, of the state, of the secret service. People never had the feeling we can change much. And I think even the protesters, who were very brave people at the time, because many of them ended up in jail and whatnot, they were just fed up with discrimination and no freedom of speech and of liberties, of going other countries. So they were fed up and they started to protest. But I think this was a real surprise. Nobody thought it would go that far.
And even as you remember it now, you've said something that struck me, because you said when you heard that the wall had come down or the Iron Curtain had been shifted, people were actually climbing the wall. So this is obviously something that you would have never dreamed would have happened. People were crossing over to the other side, So is that what the life was? That really it was divided, that you couldn't actually get to the other side?
No. We were basically locked up in our country. The system was probably scared that people, when they go to the West, they would never come back, which was probably a mistake. No, it was not true. People loved their country, and they would have come back. And many people, officially you could ask to leave the country, and some did. But then your family, your kids, everybody had problems. If you said, I don't like the system, I want to go, eventually many were let go. But no, I think if they had let people go and travel the world, they would have come back. And many people decided not to apply to leave the country because they loved their family. And they knew they would not be able to come back and to never see each other again. So, yeah.
But the truth is, they did allow people to leave the country.
Yeah, but it was not easy. And then you might lose your job, and you had a lot of repression until then, the very moment when you were allowed to go. But people did go. Some officially, and some tried to cross the border, and many died on that border, you know. The army, they would shoot people who tried to cross the border.
You grew up in Berlin.
No,
Did you?
I grew up in the south of East Germany, in a city that was then called Karl-Marx-Stadt. Very communist name. I think Karl Marx was never in that city, but it was given that name because it was a center of industry and center of industry, and that's why it was called that. But the original name was Chemnitz, and it was given back that name a few years after reunification. The people wanted to get rid of that name, Karl-Marx-Stadt.
I was asking about Berlin because, let's talk about those adult years when you were in Berlin, especially at this time when this event happened. When you were living in East Berlin and you knew that there's across the other side of Berlin, people are living in a completely different system, completely different lifestyle, did you have an idea what kind of life, forget about what the news would tell you about the systems of government and everything else, did you have an idea of what kind of life the ordinary person, the ordinary Annett across the wall was living like?
I think we had a pretty good idea of what the situation was like, because in Berlin in particular, but everybody who lived close enough to the border could receive West German TV and radio. So we could watch the news, we could watch films, we could watch comedy shows. We were fully informed of what was going on over there.
Were you envious of that life?
In a way, yes. Yeah, of course. Yeah. But on the other hand, we were also a bit, disillusioned and frustrated, and that we might never have that.
I want to leap forward now to 2020. 30 years of unification. Would you say Germany is fully unified?
No, it's not. And just recently, around this holiday, of course, there are a lot of documentaries about the past, the developments over the 30 years. And there was some statistics that economically, East Germany has not fully, regrown to the strength that West Germany had. But it's on a good way. The living standards are basically the same. Incomes and opportunities may still be a bit less in the East. There's only one company that's on the registered on our exchange. Only one of those big companies. Only one has the headquarters in East Germany. All the other big companies are in the West. So many people moved to the West. The job opportunities were there much better. But I think East Germany has found his own way and has developed its own strengths in what they could do.
What are these strengths?
There are areas in East Germany, especially in the north, on the coast. It's a very beautiful area where a strong tourism industry developed. That has not been there before when I was a kid going to the Baltic Sea. Now you have there lots of nice hotels and restaurants. So there's many jobs were created. There's a beautiful nature, so they use that opportunity. In other areas, there are very specialized industries in high tech, in car industry. So I think they found the niches and their strengths where they could develop. Many other things, unfortunately, could not be kept alive. And yeah, but also we all had to accept the fact that in a free country, there is success, but also less success, and everybody has, and every industry and every organization, you have to find your way and you have to live with this. And that was a bit difficult in the beginning, but I think from that point of view, everybody is reunited. Huh? They have recaptured these opportunities.
So, if you're looking at complete reunification, what do you think would need to happen in order for that to be? I mean, you talk of changes that you can see now vis-a-vis what were when you were younger, or what other people experienced. And if you were to say that things would come together truly, what would need to happen?
Maybe there's still not enough exchange between the two sides, because many people still talk about the two sides, even though 30 years later, talk about East Germany. Yeah, former East Germany. And even younger generations that were born after the reunification, still they say, there was this young girl in the documentary, she said, I go to Bavaria and in Munich, everybody looks at me like I'm coming from the moon, you know? So there's still that feeling, these people come from East Germany, and there's still this surprise. So I think many people from the East went to the West because of the opportunities, clearly. But not many people from the West went to the East. You will find millions who said, I've never been there. I never bothered to go and have a look. So there's still some old maybe ideas in the heads of West Germans who never were in East Germany. How it has developed, how it has flourished, how it is, visually equal and not very different from the West. So I think there needs to be more exchange between the two sides and between the people from
But
both
looking
sides.
back, is it that the new administration of now the reunified Germany forgot that very important cultural aspect, or even just the human side aspect of encouraging integration, encouraging people from the West to move to the East as those from the East are moving from the West? Did it require perhaps government effort, deliberate government effort for that to maybe make it look better?
That certainly would have helped, but we only know better afterwards. Maybe nobody thought of that at the time. Nobody knew how the reunification will work in 10 years, in 20 years, in 30 years. So, and I think many people thought it would be much easier,
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say they forgot it, but it certainly would have helped. Because at the time, the only West Germans that came to East Germany were the ones who basically took over companies or took over administration. Of course, let's see the administration. The East German administration had to be adjusted to the West German standards and regulations and whatnot, and nobody had an idea, so someone had to come to do it. But they were always felt like a little bit teaching us what to do and knowing better. So in the first years, this relationship was not such a friendly one.
Yeah.
So this is overcome now. So I think the East Germans have taken over their own administrations and their own companies and all this. But in the first years, especially those who came were more teaching us what to do. So that was not taken. That was not taken lightly and kindly.
So would you say at some point those who were then in East Germany felt they were marginalized?
In some way, they felt inferior. And maybe in many instances, they were also given the feeling that they are inferior. Or they didn't have the self-confidence to say, no, I can do that. I don't need that West German guy to come to do my job or to tell me how to do my job. So I think it was not intentionally, but they were they were given that feeling, or they had this feeling of being inferior and didn't have the self-confidence to say, no, we can do it ourselves.
Looking at current situation politically, do you feel as if the people from the East and the people from the West think the same politically when it comes to electing their leaders? Do you have parties that are as strong in the West, in the former West, as they are in the former East? Or do you still have those lines in terms of political ideology and political support for parties and personalities?
No, I wouldn't say that, because you can see from the coalition part, from the ruling parties in the various federal states. So you have social democrats in the West. They have always been there. Of course, you can see them in the East. After the reunification, I think the social democrats were very strong in the East, surprisingly, because understandably many people were maybe fed up with socialist ideas and whatnot, so they were attracted to that. And of course, the then Christian Democrat Party was the one that brought the reunification, Helmut Kohl. So they were very popular. So, and things are shifting. So the Greens are strong in the East, but they're also strong in the West. So there's I wouldn't say that there's a difference. There's a mix all over the country.
When you talk of unification, and you look at a country like ours, where we have very strong tribal sentiments, especially when it comes to politics, what can we learn from the German unification process that would unify our country, despite and in spite of our tribal leanings?
Well, I hope you don't have to wait 300 years to unify your country, because if you look back to the 15th or 16th century, there were all tribes and little kingdoms in Germany, or in what is Germany today, fighting each other. The Prussians and the Bavarians and the Franconians, So, and they grew together as a national state over hundreds of years. Yeah. And today, these tribes are still there in the names of the federal states. You have Hessen, you have Franconia, you have Bavaria, you have Saxony, and all that. But not so much in the head of the people, You can tell by the dialect of a person where it's coming from.
Right?
I mean, everybody knows I'm coming from Saxony. You just hear it when I speak. And of course, they're making fun about each other. There are all sorts of jokes, about the Bavarians, about the Berliners, about, everyone. But it's not in a controversial, fighting way, Everybody, I think, feels German first, then maybe Bavarian, but it's not a political thinking. It's just the remembrance of those tribes 400 years ago.
Would you say Otto von Bismarck played a very important role in all this?
What?
Otto von Bismarck.
Yes, at some point, the tribes, obviously, or the kingdoms, realized that coming together makes them stronger. Of course, you need an enemy. Usually, you need an enemy to come together to be stronger. And again, I hope you don't need an enemy. But maybe the enemy is just the overall development. I mean, if you want a strong society that can provide for everyone, a strong economy, then, it would be maybe better to come together and work together for that, instead of every little tribe doing their own thing. So I don't really have the solution, but for the German nation, yes, it made the country stronger, and probably it provided for a better life of the people to come together and work together instead of fighting each other.
You've spoken about it, and you've called it actually the German nation. So after the reunification, you've said everybody now feels German first, and then now you go back down. When you look at other countries, just looking at reunification as a symbolism for the rest of the world, case in point, Kenyan politics and Kenyan nationhood. There are very many things that people keep saying, have we really managed to build a Kenyan nation? Have we really managed to make everybody in Kenya feel that they're part of Kenya? Or do we still go back into thinking, I am first Luo, Kikuyu, Luya, then Kenyan? And then how do we transition from that? It's even contained in the draft BBI report that the issue of creating a nationhood, of bringing that cohesion together as a country is important. Taking the lessons of Germany in the past 30 years, how would you say would be a good way of ensuring that we all feel as a nation?
This is a difficult question. Equal opportunities. As long as I feel like an East German and I feel inferior and I will not make it in this country because it's dominated by, let's say, the West Germans, then I feel bad. And then I will feel East German first and then German second. But if I have equal opportunities and it doesn't matter where I come from, where I grew up, what's my hometown, then I will feel German first, you know, and I don't have to fight my way to the position that I want. So I think equal opportunities for everyone and equal also economic opportunities, so equal development for all the regions in the country, equal education opportunities for everyone. So if I get the same quality education in each part of the country, if I have the same chances in life in each part of the country, then I don't have to feel superior, inferior, or whatever, then I'm a Kenyan.
So what I hear you saying is that it's a government's role to provide equal opportunities to everybody. Then that calls for a certain quality of leadership. What would that quality of leadership then be that ensures everybody feels that there's equal opportunity from wherever they come from?
Well, of course, it's the government's responsibility to create the circumstances for that to happen, what I described. But I think a lot of opportunities lie in the devolution process, where the government and the regional government is also a government, and they have responsibility. And they are much closer to the problems of the people than the central government, you know. So I think there's a lot of opportunity in devolution to bring those opportunities and the development to the people in all parts of the country.
We are speaking with German Ambassador to Kenya, Madam Annett Günter. She is coming to us as we celebrate 30 years of the reunification of Germany. And when you come out of this break, we will now come and start looking at the relationship between Germany and Kenya and what benefits we derive from each other. What benefits do you derive from having relationships with Kenya? And what benefits do you derive from having cordial relations with Germany? Of course, you have to go into the background of your work in other countries. You've worked in many other countries as an envoy. Give us those experiences and see how then we take advantage. In the room, we have CT Muga Nduoko, Eric Latif, and we're joined this morning, this hour, by German Ambassador to Kenya, Ambassador Annett Günter. If you meet this particular vehicle on the road in traffic, 1 CD, 1K, it has a flag, just wave. She just might wave back. You know, one of those that 1 CD, that's... Why did Germany get the 1 CD plate?
The numbers in front of the CD, so
Yes.
the first number, basically indicates the seniority of the relative country's relation with Kenya. So let's say 1 means the first, and Germany was the first country to officially acknowledge Kenya as an independent country after independence. So we have
One.
number 1, and the second number indicates it's the ambassador's car. So 1 CD 1K is my official car. Yes, you're quite right, and I'm very proud of that. It's very unique.
It is indeed. And it speaks about our relationship, the relationship between the two countries, which is what now we want to talk about, the relationship between Germany and Kenya over those years, since that moment when you were the first to recognize Kenya as an independent country. There are many things that, have happened. Let's just, for example, just talk about technological cooperation and the kind of benefits that we've derived from each other's countries. Last year, your president was in the country, No, was it last year? Was it earlier
This year,
this
earlier
year?
this
Earlier
year.
this year. Yes, it was earlier this year. This COVID.
It has been along here.
This COVID has just basically just created a different year
It
altogether.
has extended time.
Yes, it has extended time. So at the beginning of this year, the German president was in the country, met with the president, of course, and they launched the technology center. What was it all about, and how far are we in that?
Yes, you're quite right. The president was here at the end of February this year, and it seems such a long time ago, huh? And it was the first visit ever by a federal president to Kenya, and looking back at how long our relations have lasted already, it was high time to do that, because our relations are broad and deep and varied in many areas. But you mentioned the Tibet centers, and one of them was launched together with His Excellency the President Uhuru Kenyatta in Kiambu, and this is because Tibet has become basically the core and the main focus of our bilateral relations, of our cooperation. Why is that? I mean, of course, development cooperation has changed over the years. The needs that you may have had in the 60s are different from the 70s or 80s. Today, we think, and I think we are very much in line with also the governments and the president's Big Four and all those initiatives, youth employment. But not only employment, but quality employment. Good professional training is basically the basis for good jobs, but also the manufacturing sector that the government wants to strengthen. If you want to do serious high quality manufacturing, you need well-trained people. And in Germany, the listeners may know or not, the basis of the economy is not Mercedes-Benz or other big brands that are known here, Siemens and whatnot. It's the medium-sized enterprises. That's 80% of our economy. Why are they so successful, those small enterprises? Because they're highly specialized and they have well-trained, staff, workers. Otherwise they cannot compete in the world as small enterprises. So there's a long history in Germany of high-quality vocational training, which is a combination of vocational schools and working with the industry, so that the training is geared towards the needs of the industry. And while the young people are trained in the schools, they parallel work already in companies and get used to their job, be it mechatronics or electronics, but even be it in the medical sector, in the chemical industry, it's everywhere. And it has a long history. And I think you don't have to reinvent the wheel. We have something that we think has worked for our economy very well. So we want to build up 3 centers of excellence. We have about 20 German, Kenyan companies on board that will work with those centers. We will develop the curricula. We will equip the workshops in those Tibet centers with the same high-tech machines that they will find in the companies. And then the students will be paired with those companies. And when they're done, they are immediately employable. And the employer knows what he's getting because he's seen the student before. He's worked with the student. And that's how it works in Germany. And we think this is a very good concept. And this is something that was very much welcomed by the government as one of the priorities. And I think even now, after COVID, I think it's even more important. It's even more important to bring young people into good jobs, into good education. And I'm telling people, because I think Tibet here has not such a high standing as a form of education. But I'm telling people in Germany, people who come out of a very high quality Tibet training and they go to a company, let's say Mercedes, BMW, any German car maker, they make more money than a university graduate.
Right.
Okay? So in Germany, it's not like it's not prestigious. No, it's very good. You can make a lot of money if you have a good vocational training and you have a good company. You can make a lot of money.
Do you think the same can be replicated here?
Yes.
I mean, because you're looking at different climate, quote unquote, and I'm not talking about the weather, do you think it can be replicated with what you see there? And would it be a change of mindset, or would it have to be an adaptation of the tangible things that you see?
I think we need to see the results, and it goes hand in hand in building up and strengthening the economy, and then building the well-trained workforce, and then bring it together. And I think that's when we will see the results. But also, what we also support in many of our programs is support young entrepreneurs. Especially now after COVID, there has been a program where there was a call for young SMEs to apply for training and support, financial support. I think it was in the tourism industry and some other sectors, where we will select 50 young companies, young entrepreneurs. They will get training. They can get up to 9,000 euros financial support to build up their companies. So it's not only the big industry and the TVET, it's also the SMEs that need more support. We do the same in the agricultural sector, where we have programs. We have these centers for young entrepreneurs where they can come and get the training. So I think it's a mix of the official training, but also of the young entrepreneurs. But I think because there is so much knowledge and entrepreneurship in the country that can be used and that can be tapped in by these programs.
You talked about the fact that, the industry in one way or another kind of then dictates what should be taught in these sectors, which is, it's very clear that that's the way that it should be. So do you then think that then you kind of need a revamping or an overhaul of even what is being offered at some of these TVETs, or even at the university level, to say that it shouldn't be something that sounds nice to the ear when you're getting your certificate, but something that you would actually then be able to use when you get out of school?
Yeah, I think general knowledge and training is, of course, always good. But the older you get, or the more advanced you are in your education, then you have to think, okay, what am I going to do with it? What kind of job I imagine from, So I think there must be that link. That's why I'm said employable education, employable jobs. Something that is needed. Why should we train 2,000, I don't know, shoemakers if nobody needs shoemakers?
It's what's happening now here. It's what's happening. We've recently had, many institutions across the country have to. The suggestion has been, can we merge some of these things? The suggestion has been, why are we offering some of these courses, for example, that are not marketable, that are not employable? That has been the conversation running around for a lot. So that's why I'm saying that then to perhaps, employ this model across board, where it's don't focus on filling up the halls with a nice sounding certificate course, but something that you can actually come out, and use.
I think this is part of the government's TVET strategy, the new TVET strategy, that is competency-based, it must be employable, it must be linked with the industry. I think this is exactly the point where we're tapping in, and I think this is happening. But it has to go beyond. If we are successful, and then why not? Why should not a Kenyan company or Bata, like we talked about the shoes, Bata, why should they not link up with a TVET institution and say, look, this is what we need. These are the skills we need. Let's work together. So, as I said, we will not revamp the whole TVET system. We just build a couple of centers of excellence. We show how it can be done. If the country, the government, the people, if they like it, if it's successful, they can duplicate it. Then, they can scale it up. We don't want to dictate our system. We just showcase.
Madam Ambassador, there was and has been a discussion and understanding about a technical university. Tell us a little bit about it.
This is an idea that was actually developed by the two presidents at a previous meeting a couple of years ago. And And I think this is also one of those examples, what we have in Germany, these schools of applied sciences, which is, again, it's a university, or you get a university degree, but it's very much oriented towards the needs of the industry or of the economy.
Yeah.
Let's put it like this.
Yeah.
And they were, again, these practical science schools, they work together with the needs of the economy and with the industry. And it's not very, it is, it's a very good education, but it's not only theoretical, it's oriented to the needs of the industry. So, and we thought this would be something very good to have here as well, because as I said, many university graduates, or you mentioned that, they come out of university, don't know what to do with it.
The practical skills.
So the practical skills and the needs of the economy are combined. The idea is not only to have it for Kenya, but we selected Kenya as the host country for such an East African School of Applied Sciences, so that also students from other countries can come. And we are still in developing the framework for it. We're working with the Ministry of Education and still trying to figure out how we can also link it up with this TVET, because the schools of applied sciences, again, they would train people who then teach in the TVET excellence centers. So I think there's a whole linkage to do to turn education more to the needs of the economy, of the society, of the industry, and that starts with the School of Applied Sciences and goes down to the school, TVET schools.
Talking about the needs of society, energy.
Energy.
Energy, yes. How much is Germany committed, the Federal Republic of Germany committed to aiding and assisting the Kenyan government with this sector?
This energy is another area of our cooperation. I think we have been, and Kenya is a champion. Many people may not know, but I think 85% or so of the energy production is done with renewables. There's big potential in solar, of course, hydro, thermo, geothermal, wind energies.
Yeah.
So, and I think from the very beginning we have been very much involved in this geothermal energy production in Olkaria. That was already 10 years ago financed, or the first one was financed through our corporation. And we were involved in the wind park up in Turkana, where part of the financing came from Germany. So there's a huge potential, and we are quite a bit envious of that. But talking climate and pollution and climate change is not only energy production, it's also energy use. So there are many other areas where I think we can cooperate successfully, be it e-mobility. We have projects that try to develop just little pilots to have e-boaters, e-transport bikes, e-taxis, and whatever you can imagine in e-mobility, where you reduce the emissions. We also had a very successful program where I think, I don't know how many, I think it's like 500,000 or 700,000 households were supported with energy efficient and less polluting cooking appliances, where you don't burn wood or charcoal, which is not only the pollution a problem, but also, the chopping down of woods is a problem, to keep the environment and biodiversity. So, there are many areas where we are working with Kenya, and when there's a big potential for Africa in particular to actually also be on the forefront of those developments, because you can leapfrog from now to the future. In Germany or in Europe in general, everything is a little bit slower. But here you can just tap into those opportunities and leapfrog to the next stage. And you soon may have more e-bikes than there are e-bikes in Germany. Yeah? Because it's so much easier to advance those technologies in a country like Kenya.
Madam Ambassador, when you speak like that, talking about all the kind of cooperation that and assistance that you have offered with various programs, the question that comes to my mind is sustainability. And when you talk about sustainability, is the projects that you have funded or you have helped to start being able to sustain. And this is by being taken up by the local government, either the national government, the county governments, or the various sectors that you're supporting, so that then they can move on. Do you see that kind of willingness to take up the projects, knowing and fully understanding that we are getting the support from the German government for 2 years or 3 years or 10 years, and after that we should be able to fully run this program going forward? I'm speaking about that because you said there are very many of these projects that over the years you've supported, and that we have the potential to leapfrog, but that potential can only be realized if those in those positions of authority have the will to take over the projects. Do you see that?
Well, as I said before, I think the character of our cooperation has changed over the years, and we try to not look too much at projects, and rather in policies that we would like to support. Of course, you need a project or a larger project to cooperate on a certain issue, but I think we want to support the government's policies into a certain direction. Let it be clean energy or e-mobility or more efficient agriculture. But I think the projects themselves have to prove that they are working and that they are viable, and then it's up to the local government or the central government to take it over, to embrace the idea, and then to continue. I think a project is only successful if it's able to live on its own after a few years. Sure. If the project still needs an input from somewhere, then there's something wrong with the project, you know? So I think the projects themselves, but we think in longer periods. So we look at our cooperation policies in up to 3-4 years. So I wouldn't say it's like it stops after 2 years and then the whole thing dies. So this is not how we want to work. We want to increasingly work with policies that we support, like the Tibet policy, like the e-mobility, like agriculture.
What are some of the challenges to this cooperation? Because this cooperation is between these two countries has been there for a very long time. What are some of the challenges that you've seen over time, hoping to overcome?
I don't see so many challenges. I don't know.
It's easy.
Very
You talked
optimistic,
about
right?
the challenges.
Easy.
No, actually, it is quite easy because it is a cooperation. You know, just these days, actually, the whole week, we had talks with various line ministries, be it environment, be it agriculture, be it education, be it industry, transport, and also the Ministry of Finance, who's sort of like the central focal point for that. But we talk with our partners and say, what are your priorities? Where do you want to go? Where can we help? What do you need? It's not like we come and think like, oh, we think our e-mobility is the best in the world and you have to take it. No. It's a cooperation. And I think it works quite well. Challenges are always there. There are administrative systems that, of course, we have to respect and we have to adjust. But I wouldn't say that there are too many problems.
Maybe currently there may not be, direct challenges in terms of the cooperation or in terms of even the relations that you have. But even if you just look back in the last couple of years, we've had German ambassadors in this country who have had what the administration would describe as fractious relations with, those in power, to an extent where you find that there's, it appears as if there's those in power and the person who's here as the German ambassador, are not really speaking or seeing each other eye to eye on some issues. Would you say that, that is also beneficial to the cooperation that we have, the relationship that we have, that sometimes you agree to disagree?
No, we're not always on the same, not always on the same page, maybe from the very beginning, or there may be issues that need to be raised, On a political level, of course, I'm here representing my government vis-a-vis the Kenyan government. So our relations are friendly and deep and manifold, but there may be issues that need to be raised. Then, of course, I have to go and say, like, my government thinks this or that. What do you have to say? But I mean, I myself haven't encountered any such serious cases, Rather, we would try, again, we try to cooperate, Where do we need Kenya, or where can we cooperate with Kenya internationally, Like Kenya now becoming a member of the Security Council. Very important, and we are currently a member of the Security Council. So many of the issues that are very close to our politics, to our hearts, let's say multilateralism. The Alliance on Multilateralism just met 6 days ago in New York. Our minister invited, and the foreign minister of Kenya was there speaking. And I know this is one of the core issues of Kenya's foreign policy and its future UN Security Council policy, where they say we can solve the problems only together. We need multilateralism. We need strong international institutions. We need strong United Nations, and we are going to work for it. So here we can very strongly partner with them and support it. So that's what I'm saying. So I think we should increasingly try to find areas where we can work together stronger, be it on a national level, be it on an international arena. And I think Kenya is a very strong partner, especially on the international arena. We need Kenya's voice because we speak the same language there. We have the same priorities, women and peace. One of the very, very, very important issues also for Kenya, also for our Security Council presidency. And we hope to have this dialogue, and we hope that these topics will be carried on through Kenya in the Security Council. So this is the kind of discussions we are having.
Have you ever encountered a situation where maybe our foreign minister has mentioned to you that we as Kenyans don't particularly like this perspective that the German government has?
No.
You must have
sounds
been
like
having a very
management in
nice
heaven.
time so far. Yes, actually. I'm sure, Madam Ambassador, you know of some of your predecessors and the kind of relations that they have had with the government. Maybe it's a personality issue. It's how someone chooses to approach issues. Maybe that's the character that you have. Or maybe it's a different character that,
Or I think it's a different time.
Or it's a different time. The context
and
as well
the,
can
and
be
the
different.
issues that are probably coming to the fore are subject to that particular period of time.
Yep.
So you have come at a peaceful period.
Peaceful, yes, but very challenging and interesting, and I think this special crisis that we are all faced with, equally in America, in Europe, in Kenya, many people say, each crisis is a chance to do
grow
things
and
better,
come out
to
stronger.
grow and come out stronger. Yes. But you have to have something in your mind what that actually means.
Yeah.
So, and I think this is a challenge to deepen our cooperation and to, I think I like better the version of build back stronger. Continue what we're doing, but now having the chance maybe even improving things that we are doing and getting more focus and seeing clearer what is needed. This crisis has brought to the surface so many underlying problems. Let's say in education, there's so many challenges.
Yep.
So this gives the I mean, the time would have passed and everything would have kept doing what they've been doing. So, but now there's a challenge. So what's wrong? What have we been doing wrong? And how can we, while we're trying to overcome, how can we do it better?
Yeah.
Or in health? And this applies to every country. Now we see, in Germany, big thing. Our students don't have enough computers. We cannot do homeschooling, well enough. There's not only the villages in Kenya or somewhere where there are no computers. No, in Germany, as well. Many young students don't have the computers and they cannot follow. So, we have somehow not quickly enough adapted to to new teaching methods, and so, and why is it? So, but now there's the chance to say, okay, now we do this, Now we equip the schools with all this, with whiteboards and all these new technical things that maybe some teachers have resisted to have. I mean, people are not so different from Europe to Africa to
Every
everywhere,
challenge is an opportunity.
But this is a chance to learn.
Yeah.
There was something wrong. Let's fix it. Let's do it better. Build
Indeed.
back stronger
Indeed.
to improve things.
Ambassador Annett, Günter, we want to thank you very much for joining us this morning. And congratulations to the people of Germany as you celebrate 30 years of reunification.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank
it was
you
a
for coming
pleasure.
in.
Thank you for your interest.
We'd love to have you again so we can have more conversations on many of the projects that the two governments are actually collaborating on.
Okay.
And
So
also-
our celebrations this year, unfortunately, cannot be the same way that they used to be,
Yeah.
with many friends. But let me mention the Kikwito Festival, if I may, which is the first music festival that brings together Kenyan musicians. First time after COVID. It's taking place on the weekend at Carnivore and Kikwito. The festival was founded by my predecessor, Ambassador Walter Lindner, who was a musician
was an
himself, and it
artist.
still lives on. And
Yeah.
German Embassy is still a strong partner of the festival. It's taking place this weekend at Carnivore. Please come, enjoy, and listen to your Kenyan musicians from young DJs to very well-known artists. So please join us. This is our celebration this year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Asante sana, and we will do that.